Hey there, my name is Roy Salvatore. My experience is slightly different from most people. It's unique somehow. What you're about to read starts between lifetimes. I'm about to tell you my first encounter with the afterlife. Those clouds that are in heaven are not the kind you see on earth. Those white floating clouds seem to dance. I spent a lot of time staring at them. I remember some person asked me what I was looking at. I replied, "Those clouds over there." I can't remember what he said about them, but that's when I said to myself, "I've been here for 10 days. To which a voice replied back, "You will be here for another 10,000 years. There are some fragments I can't remember, so I'll skip to the part where I was in a giant building. It was massive inside, and it seemed to be made from pure gold. I saw hundreds of robed people talking with one another among golden beams of light. There was a lady standing next to two massive doors, on which was written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Also carved in the stone were the words, I am the Alpha and the Omega. The lady said to me, God will speak with you now. I walked in and I fell to my knees, after which God told me to rise. I was in the place where you receive your new name, which was given by God. I will call you, but I can't remember it. It was a strange word. It sounded like it was from a different language. He also told me what it meant, but I can't recall that either. The more I looked at his face, the more it seemed to be concealed by the light. The light was just ordinary light, like the kind that comes in through your window. This is where the fragments of the memory I have seemed to begin. Soon I found myself surrounded by a group of people, and I heard a voice saying, Once you go, there's no coming back to your previous life. I skipped toward the place saying, I want to go, and then I heard a voice saying, Please don't go. I do remember some of what happened next. I have some visual memories of my mother's womb and of my birth, about which I can remember everything. The nurse, the doctor pulling me out, what the doctor said, what the nurse said, what my mom said. Everything about what I remember is exactly the same as how my mother remembers it. It's hard to believe. I must have given an enhanced ability to remember my birth, and my first birthday as well. I could feel my heartbeat, and the coldness of the room. When babies cry, it's because the doctor pulls you out. There's a lot of pressure that your head is forced to undergo, and it makes you want to cry. I saw a few pens in his front pocket, and I remember the way my grandmother kept walking in and out of the room. The doctor kept telling her to leave the room, but she kept coming back. All of this was verified by my mother. I know exactly where I was moved to from the room I was born in too. It all fits what my mother claims. I have many more detailed memories, but I will skip to my second death, which seems slightly different from what most people report that their death experience is. I got into my mother's car, in the back seat. I didn't want to wear a seatbelt, but she insisted. She drove up the street and turned right. I suddenly started to cough, first like the cough of a cold, then it quickly got deeper. My mother turned to me and said, Roy, are you all right? I kept coughing, started hiccuping and then gasping for air. She kept repeating the same words. Roy, babe, say something. I coughed one last time. First I leaned forward, and then I fell backwards. Like when you stand up too fast, you start to lose your eyesight. I stopped coughing, but still she kept saying the same thing. I told her I was fine now. I had the urge to hop out of the seatbelt, which I did, and the seatbelt went through me. I walked to the middle of the seat. The front passenger then turned around to try to wake me up. I didn't respond. I looked and saw a little kid, with his hair spiked up, the dark colors of his hair, his mouth open and his head tilted back. I said, I'll wake him up, Mommy. But the passenger and I couldn't wake the boy. She wanted to check my pulse, but she couldn't reach me. She unbuckled her seatbelt and was able to feel my wrist. And she said, There's no pulse. My mom replied, What do you mean there's no pulse? Are you trying it in the right spot? The passenger replied with panic in her voice, I'm sure. She checked my throat and my heart, and then my breathing, and she could feel no breath. She said, I think your son's dead. My mom told her not to talk like that. I looked at my hands. It looked like you could see through them a little bit, but not a lot. I swiped my hand through the passenger's elbow. She jerked her arm away and said, "It's really cold back there. That's really strange." Then I heard a voice that said, "It's time to go." I fell through the car floor and onto the street where Sonic was located to the left. At first, I felt worried that I was going to be left there, but then I was shot upwards at high speeds. I could see clouds upon more clouds. Within 10 seconds, I was viewing the Earth in all its massive glory. I paused there and just gazed at it for a few seconds. Next, I was shot backwards through a tunnel at even higher speeds. I stopped at a giant planet and went around in orbit with it for a bit. Then I took off in another direction, also at a high speed. I found myself going through a large tunnel to which a smaller tunnel was attached. The smaller tunnel was sucking in somebody. There seemed to be a dark hole at the end. I swam towards it. Before I got to it, I heard a voice that said for me to not go there. You don't ever want to go there. Then I was pulled backwards by something. For a moment, I held hands with somebody who said he had just died of a heart attack and was on his way to see his wife. There was a light above, and a large figure there, and a large white hand waving at us. I soon found myself on a large cloud. There were also smaller clouds moving through the sky. I turned around and saw at a distance a gathering of at least 20 people, some of whom were holding hands. I heard a female voice saying, "Roy, come here. Don't be afraid. You're safe now." As I walked towards her, I looked to my right, and there was a massive cloud about 3 football fields away. I watched while a lady who was on that cloud walked about 10 steps, dropped to her knees and started to pray. It may have been far away, but I could see everything fine from that distance. She was facing a gate in front of which a figure was standing. Then I heard the voice again, telling me to come to her. I looked down as I walked towards her, and I saw a cloud-like mist surrounding my waist, my ankles, and my lower body. It was swirling like the wind. She asked me why I was still in my ghostly state. I didn't respond. People usually come out of this state before they enter heaven. Then she looked over to her left and murmured to herself, "I understand now." Then she looked back at me and said, "Roy, you have to go back to Earth. There's been a mistake. I'm sorry, but you will have to return. You'll be back someday, I promise." She might have said I was lucky. So I walked backwards, and then I felt myself falling. As I fell, I saw someone come to the cloud's edge and wave at me. I waved back. I found myself falling towards Earth. I kept on going until I came to our car and fell right through the car roof. I was back in my body and instantly I awoke. My mom was saying, "Roy, say something." I told her, "I'm fine." I looked to my left and there was Sonic, and a train was passing. Just before I had left, I had seen the railroad stoplight turn red. Now, everything was back the way it was, as if nothing had happened.